What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Raw 4/15/24, the Amplified Review. 3 big stories coming out of last night. Number 1, new tag team championships unveiled. Not new champions, that was WrestleMania. Actual new championship titles. And if you follow this channel for a while, you know how I felt about the old titles. So this was a monumental moment for BC, and I know many of you damn right we're going to talk all about it in this review. Number 2, Chad Gable will no longer participate in the mutual respect era. Chad Gable turned last night after the main event. We'll talk all about it. That was huge. And number 3, unfortunately, after 380 days, Rhea Ripley was asked to do the unthinkable. And that's how the show started off. We'll cover it all. It's coming up in the 4/15/24 Raw review. Big shout out, a big thank you to everybody that caught the preview right before Raw on the channel live stream. Big shout out to everybody that was able to catch that live. It comes out so late. We do the preview right before Raw, and then the review comes out the next morning, so they're so close together that I only put the preview up for the live unit. So that won't be on the channel for post-viewing, if that makes sense. So that's for everybody that's able to tune in live right before Raw. That is only for that crowd. Because I don't like to get people confused with the preview and the review, because you'd be surprised it happens. So from here on out, that'll just be for the live crowd. So for those that were able to catch that live preview, thank you. That was a lot of fun, and that really got us set for the 3 hours to come in Canada. Montreal, Quebec, Canada is where they were last night. So we're going to get a swig of coffee, and when we come back, we are going to cover Monday Night Raw 4/15/24 the only way we know how, fully amplified. What? Too early for football? Nah, it's never too early for football, but this is not a Green Bay Packers review. This is a Raw 4/15/24 review, and this Monday Night Raw started in the most unfortunate of ways. Rhea Ripley vacating her women's championship, in effect ending her 380-day title reign. Hours before Raw hit the airwaves, we got word that Rhea was possibly injured. Then there was word that it's severe enough she may have to vacate the championship. Now, most of us didn't think that was actually a viable option, right? Especially with what just happened with Seth Rollins and his injuries. They just took him off the road. They took him out of the ring for up to a couple of months, but they allowed him to keep his championship. So with Rhea, you're thinking no matter how bad this injury is, I mean, they're going to give her a month, even 2 months. You're hoping it's nothing that's going to take more time than that, or something that's going to need surgery. Then you instantly have to take the title off. So you're thinking there's no way she's actually going to vacate the title. No, she started this show. She comes to the ring in a sling, and she immediately gets on the mic and informs everybody that she is being forced by WWE to vacate her women's championship. And you just, all these things you start thinking about immediately, like, damn, she just had that mega match with Becky, man. That is a big victory to retain your title at WrestleMania. Mania, it's where a lot of the heels lose their championships. Rhea went in champ, walked out champ. Rhea Ripley has so much going for her. Many say she's the real leader of Judgment Day. She's a dominant presence. She's been skyrocketed to the top of that division, or at least shares it. And like that, an injury out of nowhere right after WrestleMania. And here she is giving the championship up. Now, there's 2 ways to look at it. You say, damn, if only they knew about the injury beforehand, which we believe it was only sustained last Monday, so that's impossible. But if this was before Mania and she could compete with one more match, then adding Liv Morgan and having Morgan win the championship the right way at Mania would have been the way to go. Because Becky was taking time off with Seth anyway. Rhea would have had the injury, so Liv Morgan, right? And then when Rhea comes back, you ignite Rhea and Liv once more. But they didn't know about the injury because we don't believe it was sustained until after Mania last week. But in a what-if world, yes, Liv Morgan winning it the right way would have been the right call. But on the flip side, you can look at it as she was so dominant that only this injury is what coughed up the championship. If not for the injury, she might have gone for Gunther's record. She tried to go for Roman Reigns' record. Bruno Sammartino, so she can use that now. So this will work out. You can't do anything about the injuries. It's what you do afterwards. How do you utilize that in your character work, in your storylines? And this fit perfectly with the Liv Morgan thing. You got to believe this was sustained at Mania, though. Unless it was already nagging before Mania. We have to find out more. But the Liv Morgan attack last week, this was an attack to pretty much write her off TV, right? So you got to believe this was a Mania injury. But they decided not to call an audible because Becky was taking time off. It's one of those situations. You can't call the audible. Becky's leaving. So you're injured and leaving. Becky's leaving. Unless it's like a Moxley situation where they needed Mox. I think that was one of the times where something happened with CM Punk and Mox was about to go on a long vacation with Renee. And Tony Khan's like, dude, can you help us out and stick around? We'll give you the title for a little bit. And Mox is like, all right, honey, we're not going on vacation. Just a wild thing. I mean, you're just thinking about all this because it's so unfortunate, man. This was one of the longer title reigns, right? You had Roman's just end. You had Gunther's just end. And Rhea was the last of the three. And that just ended. So you're just thinking like, wow, man. And then you're thinking, if you're like BC, you're like, oh, no. Not another tournament. Please, not another tournament. It's either tournaments or mini tournaments or like these mini schmaz matches, right? Where you have like fatal 3-ways or 4-ways. And the winner of that takes on the winner of this fatal 3-way or 4-way. And then the winner of those two will face each other. And the winner of that goes on to take the champion. Like, it's way too much. So now I'm thinking there's going to be a women's tournament. Thankfully, later in the show, Michael Cole said we're just going to crown a new women's champion next week on Raw. He didn't say it was going to begin there and then end at Backlash in France, Saturday, May 4th. He said next week we're crowning a champ. So anyway, I'm just happy they're not going to drag this out. We're going to crown a new women's champion next week, and you got to believe it's just going to go to Liv Morgan, right? So you're right back where you started before the injury. When Rhea comes back, it's Liv, it's Rhea. There's a title on the line. The only difference is Liv didn't win it from Rhea. Rhea maybe gets it back from Liv. You just flip-flopped it. And if they don't go Liv Morgan, if they decide to go completely out of the title storyline, now that Rhea is injured, and you don't give it to Liv, who? Which female gets that championship then? Interesting conversation. I'm glad we're going to crown a new champion next week, and it sucks for Rhea. I've never been a big Rhea Ripley fan, but I absolutely respect so much about her. Her presence, her work ethic, her dominance, and her title reign. So you never want to see anybody actually get injured. Whether you're a fan of them or not, you never want to see these wrestlers get injured. You want everything being done the right way. So for Rhea, obviously a speedy recovery, but not too speedy. You want to make sure all the ducks are in a row and you're actually ready. And what Paul Levesque McMahon said after Raw went off the air, he says when she comes back, she'll be bigger, badder, stronger, right? So we hope that's the case, man. Rhea Ripley, it is confirmed. She has vacated her title. Her 380-day title reign has come to an end. We wish her the best. We'll see her down the road. Sheamus is up next. We haven't seen him in a very long time. He's another one who had these injuries, and they just kept nagging, so it just took more time before you knew it. Levesque McMahon's like, dude, I just don't have a place for you at WrestleMania. So they waited until after. Last week, he was going to debut. They decided it was too much of a packed show, so they laid down a vignette, a little bit of a video package, and told you Sheamus was coming back the next week, which was last night. I'm okay with that, obviously. Sheamus returns, and he defeats Ivar last night. This was a bro kick pinfall. That was the finish. Match was fun, I guess, right? It's Sheamus, it's Ivar. You got two brutes in there. They're giving it their all. Could you have come up with a better reintroduction for Sheamus? Because it has been a while. And you really want to highlight Sheamus much differently than just the dude from Brawling Brutes, right? I don't know if this landed, just coming back and having an Ivar match. Like he's just Bronson Reed or Ricochet, Drew Gulak. But reestablish himself, I guess. Reintroduce himself to the wrestling world. Get a victory over somebody like Ivar. All right. No harm, no foul. It's just, I would have done something a little bit more special. And from the jump, ignited a good storyline / feud. But I don't even know if WWE really knows where they're taking Sheamus. Speaking of creative, Paul Levesque McMahon is out next. He brings out Awesome Truth and he tells them from now on they will be called the World Tag Team Champions. And he unveils new tag titles finally. Thank you, PLM. Paul Levesque McMahon. Thank you. That's right. For those that say I'm hard on Triple H, no, I'll give credit where it's due always. And man, this was long overdue. Gone are the crushed pennies and crushed dimes, because that's what I always called those tag titles. If you look at the Raw and SmackDown titles, they look like coins that have been crushed and then enlarged somehow, and they're put on leather straps. They're crushed currency. They're beyond ugly. The most hideous titles I've ever seen. And I was at WWE World for WrestleMania 40 weekend, and I got to see them up close. And they're even uglier up close. It's bad, man, those titles. And for a long time, like since the day they were introduced was the day they needed to be de-introduced. They needed to be taken off out of the company. They're that bad, man. And yet we played the charade for years. Like these are titles that people want to win. No wonder there wasn't a tag division. Nobody wanted to be a part of it. What's the ultimate prize? What's the ultimate goal? Those hideous things? You can go to a local supermarket and start crushing your coins. Anyway, new championship titles, man. I can't say they're the sexiest things. I can't say they look awesome. When you think back of just awesome championships, the old school IC title, the Winged Eagle Championship heavyweight title from WWF. When you think back of the old NWA championships, there's so many incredible titles. And this one, it's like the women's championships, with a touch of IC title and then that big WWE logo in the middle. But at least it's not the massive one like the world titles. So that's the good news. But there's still just that big WWE logo that it offsets the title. It looks like it just doesn't belong. So no, I'm not going to rave about these titles, but it's an upgrade. And anytime you get better and not worse, well, that's a good thing. So listen, to Levesque McMahon, I don't know if it was straight up his call or not, but I always say I'm going to give credit where it's due. You call yourself the head dude, you got to take the crap that rolls downstream, and you got to take all the praise when you're climbing that mountaintop. So that's one of the things I'm going to say thank you to Levesque McMahon. That was much needed. They're not the best titles I've ever seen, nowhere close, but it's a huge upgrade. R-Truth, Miz are holding new tag titles, literally and figuratively, and actually. New titles, man. Pretty cool. Not sure what happens over the course of the next 5 minutes. I'm really not. Truth thinks that Triple H is Tommaso Ciampa in the ring. Miz is trying to tell him, like, show some respect to Triple H. Like, what are you doing? He's like, where's Triple H? He's like, he's right in front of you. No, that's Tommaso Ciampa. So we played that game for a while, man. Truth then doesn't understand that the new titles are theirs. So Miz is trying to tell him these are our titles. And I don't know what R-Truth is. Like, there's a point where it's funny, right? It's R-Truth. We all love R-Truth, and the comedy can be funny. We get it. And then there's times where it's like, it's crossing the line to a little bit cringeworthy. Like it's, all right, where are we going with this, right? Where even Levesque McMahon last night was like, can I go now? Like, Levesque McMahon didn't even want to be in that ring. That's not telling the crowd that is stuck there for the next 2.5 hours. That's not really giving them much hope for the rest of the show. When Triple H is like, can I leave? He literally said that, guys. Can I go now, please? Just get me out of it. Like, I don't even know what this guy's talking about. So there's funny, but you got to be careful, because if the content isn't that funny, it's going to fall flat. And it started to fall flat. Like, there's only so many times you can think Triple H is Tommaso Ciampa. There's only so many minutes in the show where you can explain that these are our new championships. So, I don't know, man. Funny at first, I started the segment with a little, smile. I was happy with the new titles for sure. And then by the end of it, I was like, what did we just lead to? It led into a triple threat tag title match to decide the number one contenders for the tag champions, Miz and R-Truth. So this was DIY versus New Day versus Creed Brothers. If that sounds familiar, that's what WWE does to decide number one contenders. They just throw a bunch of individuals together in a multi-man schmoz match, and that's how they decide number one contenders all the time. Over on SmackDown, they're having 2 triple threat matches last week, and the winner of those this week will take on each other. It's like a mini tournament, and then that person will finally take on Cody. But by that point, you will only have 2 weeks left before Backlash. So there's no real time to ignite a Cody Rhodes versus anybody feud. That should have started Friday. But they're too busy doing these mini tournaments, acting like this is a real sport and we got to find out who the number one contender is, when it's all bogus anyway, because you got somebody like Kevin Owens in one of the triple threats and Randy Orton's name is not even mentioned. But Randy was in that same triple threat match at Mania, another triple threat match for a title. That was with Logan Paul, Kevin Owens, and Randy. Kevin Owens finally, or somehow, is in this triple threat to earn another championship shot. So think about that. Owens loses the IC title match at Mania, and now he's going for the World Championship. How do you get an upgrade when you lose the mid? And again, Randy Orton's name is not even mentioned. Kevin Owens it's like when you do things like that. 3 of the 6 individuals in those 2 triple threat matches on Friday, 3 of them all lost at WrestleMania. And they get rewarded with a championship opportunity, a world championship, universal. Guys, I can keep going on and on. Like, I'm willing to meet him in the middle, but you got to make it make sense, right? Like, just some of us are going to be smarter than the average bear. We're going to have to have our standards at a set place. We can only lower them so much. All of these multi-person schmoz matches. So you have this weird segment with Truth and Miz, and it just leads into a triple threat to get their number one contenders. You're not telling your audience that you have a real division, because if you had a real tag division, just like the women's division and even the singles men's division, you would already know who the number one contender is. We would already know that. Right? It's you don't even have to announce that. You just ignite the feud, the storyline. Right on Friday, somebody should have been ready for Cody Rhodes. DIY New Day Creed Brothers. And this match takes us out of hour 1 and into hour 2. DIY win this match. Tommaso pins Xavier Woods, or Triple H pins Xavier Woods. DIY versus Awesome Truth is going to be next week, not Backlash, by the way, so that's a good thing. They're not going to drag out this face versus face tag team title match, because that's what it is. It's another one of those Paul Levesque McMahon specials where you have faces versus faces. He loves to do this. Heels versus heels, faces versus faces, and it doesn't do anything for anybody. For heels, one heel is going to have to over-dominate the other heel, right? He's going to out-heel the other heel. I always use Gunther and Bronson, right when Paul Levesque McMahon took over and he had Bronson lose to Gunther, and he was hoping for some sympathy with Bronson, but Bronson was in the middle of the ring to crickets. Nobody cared. Literally nobody cared. And at that point, not only did the sympathy thing, if you wanted to start the process to a face turn, fall flat, but now you just got beat by a more dominant heel. And to this day, Bronson Reed has never recovered. For faces, you do it too many times, you go to the well too many times, it's gonna bite back. And sure enough, Chad Gable, Sami Zayn is a perfect example where Sami wins this match to get the IC title match with Gunther at Mania, and everybody else is like, no, man, we wanted Gunther. Or we wanted Gable, my bad, to go against Gunther. And to this day, they're really trying to work out of that hole for Sami Zayn. You should have never put yourself in that position, but he loves to do these heels versus heels, face versus face matches. And we're going to get Awesome Truth versus DIY, and all you're going to do is split your audience. That's all you're going to do. Nobody's going to gain from this. You know, you got to set up dominant heel teams to go against your faces. And we shouldn't even be talking about this big title match next week when we only have 2.5 weeks before Backlash. That's what I mean. A dominant heel team should be ready to take on the faces, and we should already be igniting a storyline this past Monday. Instead, we have mutual respect. Truth, Miz, Tommaso, and Johnny, they're all looking at each other like, yeah, man, it's going to be a good match, right? Friends competing. The mutual respect era. This helps nobody. So anyway, guys, I know I'm doing a deep dive into the booking of this, but it just makes no sense. And then the winners next week. Yeah, DIY can't just take the titles from Truth and Miz. They just won the titles at Mania, man. You got to give them a real run. They can't just be transitional to the point where they've only held it for 2 weeks. That's super transitional. So then you have another week where DIY has this opportunity, and once again, they come up short. Like Shorty G, right? Which we'll get to in a little bit. Moving on. We're going to stick with tag teams, though, but this is on the women's side of things. And this just began a string of filler matches. Indi, Hartwell, and Candice LeRae defeat Ivy, Nile, and Maxxine Dupri. LeRae pins Dupri. That's all I have in my notes. That's all that happened. LeRae pins Dupri. Andrade then defeats Dominik Mysterio via pinfall. McDonuts attacks post-match, and Ricochet evens the odds. Chelsea Green and Piper Niven defeat Carter and Chance. Green wins via pinfall to end hour number 2. So Chelsea Green and Piper Niven defeat Carter and Chance. It looks like their ride is over. Hey, do you remember Alba Fire and Isla Dawn? Do you remember them? Most of you don't, do you? What was Levesque McMahon thinking with them? I don't even understand what that was all about. But it's not just tag team. I mean, Xia Li, she comes back for a couple weeks, super dominant, right? And all of a sudden she's gone, bro. But it's so... Levesque McMahon just has such a hard time with the women's roster, the majority of it anyway, right? He's good with a couple of situations, and then the rest of the... And that's odd because NXT... That was one of his strong suits, everybody said, right? He was really good at booking the ladies. But on the main roster, man, if it's not like the top 2, 3, 4 tier, everybody else, you're in flux. I mean, it's just so weird, these 2 tag matches, man. Green and Niven defeating Carter and Chance, and then Hartwell and LeRae over Dupri and Nile. And then hour 3 starts with Cody Rhodes, and he just announces that Jey Uso for his match. That was it. Jey was about to have a match with Finn Balor. And so he introduces Jey, and they just do a lot of yeeting. Right? I mean, what do I have in my notes? They do a lot of yeeting. That's exactly what I put in my notes. They just did a lot of yeeting. Cody is making like yeet jokes like, Jey, until we yeet again, or when Jey comes out, there's the crowd, you can feel it from your head to your yeet. And Cody's like looking at the crowd with a smile, and he's like, thanks for letting me tell dad jokes. He literally said that. I'm like, what are we doing here, man? What are we... And then Jey gets on the mic, and he's like, I'm going to deliver a yeet down in Yeetville. It's going to be yeetified. And I'm like, what are we talking? What is happening, man? How is this? You waited at that point over 2 hours to have Cody and Jay have a yeet off. Anyway, Jay pins Balor via Yeet Splash, formerly known as the Frog Splash. Cody had already left at that, but yeah, Cody just came out to really introduce Jey Uso. That was it. He's like, I'm just thankful that they let me on Raw because I'm a SmackDown superstar. I'm like, Cody, you didn't get the memo. There is no brand split, bro. Even after the draft, wherever they need people, they're just going to pluck you and they're not going to give a reason or an explanation. You're going to be on every show. So, like I said, Jay pins Balor via the Yeet Splash. And then we had a long camera angle. We've been doing this every week. So Jay is going up because there was the post-match attack, right? Yeah, I think there was who was it? Judgment Day attacks. And Jay is able to fend them off, and he goes up through the crowd. And it's that camera angle we've been seeing every week, right? Which is cool once in a while. Every week it's, okay, we get it. You found a new toy. You ain't got to wear it out. You know, it's like they found this new production thing where they do the long one shot through the corridors, and they follow this one planted fan. It's a plant. It's a fan who's told to just walk to a certain point and then step aside. And that's what they do. So when they step aside, you see the arena. They've been doing this every week. So this was kind of the reverse, right? Jay is now going through those corridors and all the fans are lined up. And he exits the arena like as the fans would exit. And standing there is Sami Zayn. And they have a little talk. And Sami Zayn now enters the arena. Somebody's got to tell Sami he's talent. He can actually go through the talent entrance on the main level. Sami just likes to walk around the arena. I don't know. So Sami's going through where Jay just came from. So now Sami's going through the corridors. And trust me, cool shot. We get it. Nobody's going to deny it's a cool shot. And he's coming through the crowd. Now he's the person, like they do with the planted fan. He's the one that they're following into the actual arena. And then he goes down, you know, the sections. So I understand the whole long one shot. Don't overdo it, though. We're getting a little carried away. Every single week we're seeing that same shot. Like, it's going to wear off its luster really quick. You want to use that in the most coolest of ways. Save it, because it's a pretty cool shot. But now we're just using it every single week. Like, relax on it, man. And I know everybody's still raving about it like it's the first time they saw. What a shot! Did you see that long camera angle shot? Man, that was so good. Yeah, we saw it last week and the week before and the week before. We understand that's their new production toy. We all like it. We can relax on it, though. We don't need to see the same thing every single week. Too funny. Anyway, that's the only thing I remember from that. Sami then starts his matchup. It's a main event match with Chad Gable. The rematch. This is the big match because you knew Gable can't win the title, but you gotta make Gable look good, man. He can't just lose this and then afterwards they shake hands in mutual respect. Zayn pins Gable via haluva kick. Post-match, the handshake. A little bit of a hug. Gable puts up the arm of Sami, and I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. We're still... Gable is still shaking hands, and like, I almost did it again, man. I came so close. Are we really doing that? And then Sami goes out. He hugs his family in the front row, and you're expecting it to fade to black any second, right? The little logo, the WWE copyright logo is going to pop up in the corner, and the show is over. But no, Chad Gable comes from behind while Sami is engaged with his wife and his family, and Chad Gable does a suplex to Sami Zayn on the outside. In effect, turning heel. At the end of Monday Night Raw, Chad Gable has had enough. He snaps, he suplexes Sami Zayn, he puts his shoulder right into the post. So they're up on the ring apron at this point, puts him right into the post. Then he gets him in there like an ankle lock on the top turnbuckle. He's ravaging Sami Zayn. He is not going to take this loss with a handshake this time. And we kind of saw that with Drew McIntyre. All right, enough. And it's time for a change, and they kind of tweak their character just enough to where, hey, it works. For Drew, for at least, 19 seconds? He won the championship. So hopefully this works in Chad Gable's favor, but I like this. It's a shame because so many people like Chad Gable, so it's going to be interesting to see if this is pulled off the way they want to, right? Are they going to boo him like a heel? Because a lot of us really like Chad Gable, and one of the biggest reasons is because we want this dude to reach that mountaintop. I'm not saying it's exactly like Daniel Bryan, but he's one of those dudes that when he wins that world title or any title, it's like, oh, you talk about the word deserves, which we give every wrestler these days just for putting on the tights and performing. Everybody deserves everything. It's like a participation trophy to get that chant. You win a title, we automatically say, you deserve it. But if anybody truly, to the T, to the definition of that word deserves it is Chad Gable. And so it's going to be interesting to see, do we really boo him vividly like they're hoping for? So that's what kind of sucks, is we wanted to take the ride with Chad Gable to the championship, and it looks like if he does, it's going to be us booing him. So that's what sucks. It would have been cool to do this as a face, but they kind of, that turned sour when they did Sami and Gable, and they chose the wrong person. I was okay with either one of them winning, but the wrestling community was firmly behind Chad Gable. So that part sucks. We won't get to take the ride as a face when and if Chad Gable has that culminating championship moment. But the flip side is this is a pretty fun Chad Gable too. We've seen this dude as a heel. If he curbs the comedy a lot and he takes that serious side and he turns it up to another level or 6, this could be a fun ride with Chad Gable too. So is this what was needed to finally get Gable a title? Is he the one to dethrone Sami? And if that's the case, this is going to drag out 9 months, because you can't have Sami lose that title anytime soon. The guy just won it at Mania, man, and he defeated Gunther, who had the longest IC title reign of all time. So Chad Gable, nobody is winning that title for months from Sami Zayn. So unless you're prepared to have a 9-month-long feud bare minimum with Chad Gable, I don't think Gable's even going to win this title, even with the character tweak. But you can still do a lot of really cool things with heel Gable, because whether you like it or not, that's what you're getting. Chad Gable turned last night. No mutual respect. It's the shove it up your era. That's what he told Sami Zayn and family and friends in the front row. In his hometown of Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And that was Monday Night Raw. Went off the air with Chad Gable destroying the hometown hero of Sami Zayn. So again, when you wrap up this show, guys, so you have the big moments for sure, but the rest of the show was straight up filler, and there was a lot of it. And that's what made the show in many areas kind of feel like it was dragging. So, I don't know, maybe it's just a little bit of WrestleMania lag, and maybe they're regrouping, right? System downloading or processing, and hopefully by Friday night they'll work out the kinks, and by Monday we'll have a much better complete show. Again, good stories to come out of this, 3 big ones, and then the rest of it kind of just, it fell off. So, but we'll see, man. We're a couple weeks away from Backlash, and the company will understand, we better kickstart this fast because we are 2 weeks away from France's Backlash. And we got to put together a card. We got to make people care about the storylines. So, they'll get it together, or at least we're hoping they get it together. Until next time, and there will be that next time. Top guys, we are out. BC and his unit saying check you. Peace. Go long. Jordan Love style. Go long.